And then
All
people
right.
move
Well, I
there.
guess
Yeah.
I guess I should wipe my forehead then and make sure I'm not all too shiny and whatnot.
Oh, I'm always shiny on. Are you kidding me? The lights make you so shiny whether you like it or not.
Oh yeah.
Me,
Always some chapstick.
right. We got people joining. So, hey, everyone, we'll start at the top of the hour like we always do. Jason and I just got on a little early because there's always tech issues that we always have to figure out. So,
Exactly.
apparently, I was being rude and not letting him have video on. So rude of me.
It's all good. It's a Wednesday morning, you know?
I know. Is it Wednesday? You know, it's funny. My week has been totally off. I worked all weekend because I needed Tuesday off for some personal stuff that I needed to get done. And then I'm driving on Friday to Lake Tahoe. So for I got a full day of drive. So everything for me is like Wednesday, Thursday. Everything has to get done.
Well, my whole schedule just completely changed this week. So let's see here. I got back in town Sunday, and then I thought, oh, I'm gonna have the whole week at home, and then I'll leave like Thursday night, Friday morning, and then I'm going to do a trip. I'm flying a trip to London on Friday evening. Well, that changed because I've got to fly out this morning to go and go to a meeting in Dallas. It's kind of important that I'm there in person. So I'm gonna I've already gotten up, got my daughter ready, did her pigtails, everything, and taking her to drop her off at the daycare. Back for this. When this wraps up, I jump on an airplane. I drive to the airport, jump on an airplane, fly to Dallas for a couple hours, then fly back tonight. So, yeah. So much for free time, right?
No, there's no such thing. So, hey, everyone joining. Good to see you all. I hope it's nice and sunny where you are like it is for me. I will tell you, I was sitting outside on my patio this morning and I forgot that sprinklers come on at the same time I was out there and I got soaking wet. I heard it come on. I thought I'm on the patio. It won't affect me, but it hit me right in the back.
Oh, geez. That's awesome.
That's how I started the day. Soaking wet.
That little guy? I wouldn't worry about that little guy.
Hey, everyone. Good to see you joining. We will start in about a minute. We got a little bit of a surprise / special guest that I'm excited about today. I like to do that every now and again.
Let's see here.
Like I said, I hope the weather is good where everybody else is because in Denver, it is gorgeous today. In fact, it was gorgeous last night.
It is, yeah. The weather last night was absolutely perfect for a walk outside. Matter of fact, my wife and my daughter and I, we took a walk outside and it was so awesome. And then this morning you look up and you're like, dude, there's not a cloud in the sky. This is just amazing.
Oh my gosh, not one. It's incredible. Let me hit record so I don't forget. It's my biggest downside, and then we'll get started. Oh, I say, what did Mia say? Mia said, June gloom in SoCal. SoCal's supposed to have all the good weather. That's not right.
But isn't it? But it never rains in Southern California, though, right? Like, come on.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe every now and again, that's good. I'll tell you, because I grew up in Northern California, and it was foggy a lot. So on the days we didn't have fog, we really appreciated it. But I will tell you, I now miss the fog. I miss the cold in the morning, and then so. All right, we will get started. So hey everyone, thank you for joining this day's burst of innovation. It's so good to see you all, and I know more of you are joining as we're talking. A couple things just to know. These are about 10-ish minutes for those of you that are new, give or take. We try to kind of cover one topic. And the reason you see two of us on the screen for once, normally it's just me, is because when somebody who's also a leader in their field says something to me that I go, wow, my group of innovators would absolutely love that. I try to bring them on every now and again. So that's why we have a special guest here today. And for those, yes, joining on Facebook, exactly. That's why there's two of us on the screen, not one of us on the screen. So I'm going to say like 2 words, Jason, about you. And then I want to make sure that you have the bulk of the time to actually share your wisdom. So here's what I'll say about Jason. I've known you for a couple of years now, give or take, I think. And I've always been really impressed with your leadership. And I know a lot of that comes from your time in the Air Force, as well as being a pilot for United, right? Make sure I don't offend an airline.
American.
Oh my God, I just did it wrong. How did I get United in my head? I knew I was going to do it wrong.
It's all good.
Anyway, and as I think all of you on this watching live and kind of on this call know that there's a lot of trials and tribulations and hard work and leadership lessons that come out of those experiences. And I think you, Jason, in particular, have really leveraged what you've been through to kind of create leadership skills that the rest of us in the everyday world and in business can actually use and benefit from. So with that said, I'm going to pass the mic over to you so that you can share your wisdom. And hey, for those of you listening in on Zoom, and Facebook too, because I'm watching both, if you want to ask a question, let me know. I'll try to pipe in. But Jason and I just had this brilliant conversation the other day where he said a couple things that I thought were really profound, and I wanted him to share them with you. So here we are.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Tamara, for having me on, and thank you for allowing me to be in front of your audience. Obviously, I don't take that lightly. That's extremely special. And so for those that I get to see today and spend a few minutes, thank you for this opportunity. One of the biggest things that's literally constantly replaying in my mind right now is this idea of what people want. It seems simplistic, but it's almost ever present. People, they want to be heard, they want to be understood, and they want to be acknowledged. And so right now, more than ever, people are trying to figure out, what can we do? We're in the midst of the confluence of potentially 4 different crises in our workplace, in our homes, in our family, in our society. With those various things, you've got civil, social unrest, you got protests that are happening. We've got COVID-19 that's still happening and the uncertainty of what that's going to lead to. And then that has led to some family challenges, whether those are marital issues or issues with our children. And then it's inevitably for some of us has led to economic challenges, right? Yeah. And then all of that, people, they just want to be heard, they want to be understood, and they want to be acknowledged. And so then beyond the idea of hearing, understanding, and acknowledging people, I think when we start talking innovation, we start talking leadership, people want to have a seat at the table, right? And so there are some people. Yeah, exactly. We all want our voice to be heard, right? And so as you and I discussed the other day, as we go about life and we go about doing various things in our communities and our jobs and our teams, whatever that is, the idea of wanting to have our voices heard, the idea of wanting to have a seat at the table, that's important. But beyond that, once you get that seat at the table, once your voice is heard, what do you do with it? There are typically 2 ways that you can handle it. You can get a seat at the table where your voice is heard, and you can amplify that voice and just get louder and louder and louder. And so much so. Right, exactly. Like a lot of people, they get out there and they just get loud. And then eventually people just go, you know what? We're done hearing you. Right. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, great. We gave you a seat. Now you're becoming annoying. Right. And so, or the other side of that conversation is now that we have a seat at the table, especially those that are leaders, not necessarily by a title, but that we lead, that we set an example. When we get that seat at the table, then it's our chance to utilize our voice, to utilize our influence to ensure that those who can't be heard, that they are heard, that those who can't be understood, they're understood, and those who aren't acknowledged, that they're acknowledged. And that is the importance of what's happening right now. That is the importance of when you are a leader, when you aspire to make an impact, when you aspire to make a difference, and you finally get that seat at the table, what do you do with it? Are you going to choose to stay silent? Are you going to choose to get louder and amplify your voice that only benefits you and actually becomes detrimental? Or are you going to amplify your voice for influence and impact for those who can't be heard, for those who don't have a seat at the table? And I think that's the power of what we can do with one person, the impact and the difference that can make.
Can I ask you a question on that, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely.
I really appreciate the way you talk about the 3 kind of ways that you can handle it once you become a leader. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that isn't just about title. That could be because you happen to be an influencer in your organization, in your group. I've known many people who weren't VP level, but for whatever reason, they were heard more than the other people. How do you think about how to represent and lead others at the table without just being that louder?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I got you still. It seems that we have a hiccup or whatnot, but the idea of what do we do as a leader, right? The idea of how do we lead, the idea of leading without a title, there are various things that we can do. One of the things that we can do is just to ensure that we are surveying the folks around us. We can ensure that we understand what they are going through, ensure that we understand what their challenges are, and that we utilize that level of influence. And it's not based on that title. It's not based on a position. It's essentially, how do we make a difference when we're given an opportunity to? And so if everybody's there and you still hear me, somebody just give me a shout out or something. I think we might have lost Tamara. And so it appears that I'm still live and I'm still up. Cool. Awesome. So I think she asked that question as far as like, how do you make that impact as a leader, without a title? At the end of the day, we have to appreciate the fact that we don't need a title. We don't need a title to be a leader. We don't need a position to lead people. And it's powerful that we understand that, and then we utilize that ability to have influence. I've seen where someone who didn't have a position, who didn't have a title, and they realized that the voices weren't being heard. And so they decided to take their simple phone, their iPhone, and in taking that iPhone, what they decided to do was to record a video. Those are about a 10-minute video. And they decided to send that to a couple of their trusted friends within the organization. Once they decided that it was an appropriate video, then they sent that video out. And when they sent that video out, what they learned is that the leadership began to get interested in that video. And as the leadership got wind of that video, it got spread. And this one person without a title, without a position, was able to literally impact the C-suite of a company that has over 100,000 employees. That's the power of what we can do when we understand the impact and the influence that our voices can have, and understanding that it's not about trying to get something for us individually or selfishly. It's about the difference and the impact that it's going to make for the greater good. And that's the power of being able to lead without a title, being able to lead without a position. Hey, welcome back.
I know. So I don't, that honestly, that's the first tech glitch I've ever had. Like I was there and then I was gone.
Well, it's kind of like I was perfectly placed.
I know, right? I'm honestly like, I'm really glad that you just kept talking. So, and I'm glad you were here with me. I would have just dropped everybody. So, all right, do me a favor, those in the chat bar, because I just missed all the brilliance. Just put in there the one thing that stood out for you, because I would love to know what, because I feel like I walked into a profound moment. So, Jason, I'm going to give us 2 minutes over just because I don't know if you covered this while I was gone, but did you cover need versus want? Because that was the other conversation we had that I would just love, and I'm going to share what people are putting in the chat bar. I would just love for you to talk a little bit about, because I thought that was really eye-opening for me about how to think about that.
Yeah. So, you asked me a question when we talked the other day. You said, hey, is there one nugget that people could take away that's an actionable thing that they can do?
Yeah.
Well, and I go back to that first point, and that is that people want to be heard. They want to be understood. They want to be acknowledged. Yeah. As leaders, it is our job to not only hear our people, so take the time to do that, understand them, understand their concerns, understand their challenges, and understand their fears, right? And then also understand what they really want within an organization, within a team, and then acknowledge. And when I say acknowledge in this context of what we as leaders, whether you have a title, a position or not, it's first and foremost acknowledging their presence. Right now, tragically enough, I've been seeing entirely too many people that feel like they are not acknowledged within their organizations. That video I spoke about, it was predicated solely on the idea that this one individual felt like they were not acknowledged, and they were part of a very small selective group of people within that company, and they were not acknowledged. And so we need to acknowledge our people, acknowledge their presence, acknowledge what their concerns, their fears, their aspirations are once we hear them. And when we do that, then we will begin to hear and understand what their wants are. And in doing that, our job as a leader to then figure out what their needs are. And ultimately, and I recall hearing this some time ago in a seminar that I went to, this person said, and this applies in sales, it applies in leadership, in any facet of life, to include our marriages, right? People will tell you what they want. It is our job to not just give them what they want, but we have to give them what they need packaged in the pretty wrapper of what they want. And when you do that, you will inspire people, you will empower people, and you will motivate people to go out and be innovative. You will motivate people to be self-starters, and you will not only empower them, but you will enable them to go and do some phenomenal, amazing things. And that is what our job is as leaders.
I got to tell you, let me just read some of the comments coming in, Jason, because I think they're great. But thank you for sharing that, because that part really challenged me to think differently about how I lead my team and marrying need and want. Because as a leader, as the owner of the company, frankly, I see things that they don't see.
Right.
And then, so I know need a little bit more maybe than they do, not always, but a little bit more. But they have wants to make them satisfied in their job, do their best. And I hadn't ever thought about marrying the two. All right, so let me put what people put in here. So good. And thank you all for sticking with the tech and letting Jason go a little bit over, because I missed, I feel like you solved the meaning of life and I missed it. Kirby says, not having the title is akin to the quote, some people have in the office said, do you want to speak to the man in charge or the woman who knows what's going on? Kind of what you're saying.
I love that.
I know. Paul says, everyone can use their voice to influence no matter title or position. Totally agree with that. Can I share something actually that happened this morning on that, Paul? So I'm so glad you said that. CrossFit had a big issue with the founder of CrossFit saying some really unfortunate things and not okay things. So here's what happened. The elite athletes left. The gyms,
Wow.
unaffiliated or de-affiliated, I don't know what the right word is. People started removing CrossFit from their name everywhere. And keep in mind, this is a brand and a business that is part of the people, for those of us who do it, it's part of our identity. So it was hard and the right thing to do. And everyone pulled away. Sure enough, this morning, I got an email saying they sold CrossFit to someone totally different, actually someone in Boulder. So I say that because you said Paul said everyone can use their voice to influence. To me, that's a great example of we do actually have the power to influence, even though my little gym on Colfax down the street is like nothing in the bigger grand scheme of thing, but all these little people had a voice and actually it made a change. It was very cool. Sarah wrote, everyone can use their voice, but the audience management must be receptive to hearing. Yeah. Let me ask you one last question, Jason, and then I know we got to wrap up. How do you know if your management is or isn't? Because I do think that sometimes leadership's like, yeah, I hear you, but it's lip service, right? So for those of us on this call, how do we know that we're being heard or that we need to change our approach or change the culture a little bit?
Yeah, and that's a phenomenal question, right? And so this idea of engagement, this idea of impact and influence, and then someone saying, hey, let's have a conversation. It's not a catch and release thing, right? Or It's not a just throw it out into the ether and then just wait for magic to happen. This is a culture thing, and this is something that we have to cultivate, right? And there comes a point where you will notice in most organizations, if it was just fluff and if it was just somebody saying empty words and empty promises, or if they're putting something tangible behind it. And then with that, if you do notice that it's empty promises, then you have the opportunity to re-engage. But the beauty is that we get to understand our value in those moments. And we get to decide, kind of that proverbial, the kid on the football field, to take my football and go play somewhere else, right? Yeah. And I know that's hard. I know that's challenging. But kind of like the whole CrossFit thing where, like you talked about, some of the super athletes had some amazing gyms that they just said, I will no longer be affiliated with this. I don't care how profitable it might seem. I'm taking my football and I'm going to play elsewhere. Yeah. And so that, I'm not going to say that your voice being heard is the end all be all, because it isn't. Right. Because we're still human, right? And we still have ego and we still have pride that we have to deal with. And not everybody is going to be receptive to change. But I think then the idea, you talk about innovation, we then need to consider, are we going to be innovative in how we think about it and how we present it? And part of that, if you realize that somebody has ego and pride in the scenario, then figure out how do you cater to that to actually get them encouraged and get them wanting to actually help to make positive change for the better and for the organization. And if you get to the point of just a total stalling out, it might be time to say, I'm no longer going to be affiliated with you. I'm no longer going to be here. And I'm going to take my amazing talents and value and innovation and impact and voice somewhere else. that matters and that cares about me as a person and cares about the impact that I'll have on that team, that organization.
So peeps, maybe next week I'll talk about the bureaucracy and the constraints, some that we create on our own and some that are in our organization, how to get over those to build. So Jason, I know I went over for all of us. Thank you though. Thank you for being here. Thank you for putting up with my whatever happened.
Good.
But that's why we know Jason's like the master. He just kept talking. He's like, she'll be back or not, whatever.
I was like, just somebody in the chat group, let me know that y'all still hear me, because I think we just lost her. So if you still hear me, so somebody's like, yep, I still hear you. So like, well, cool, I'm on, let's go. Like we talked about, we talked about the other day in the airplane, it's when you're at 35,000 feet, you don't get to go down the hall and go, hey, Tamara, can we talk tomorrow? No, you got 12 minutes of oxygen, baby, to get this thing down on the ground and make certain you take care of the passengers and the safety.
This is a great example of that, right? So Kirby says, great to be on here for a few. This has been great. I need to listen again. Sarah says, great job. Temi, I hope I'm saying your name right, says, thanks, Jason. Well done. So this is I gotta tell you, this is a phenomenal, we can just keep chatting for a minute while people log off, but this is a phenomenal group of innovators. There are people all over the organization or their organizations who really have a desire to innovate and make an impact, and they're doing it. These are the people that do the work. Mia says, amazing topic. Good. So this is like, I love this group, and people always laugh, Jason. They say, how do you get them to even type anything in the chat bar? And I was like, sometimes I got to slow them down. Like,
I was trying to take a peek and I'm like, oh man, I'm like, okay, no, just look at the camera.
Yeah, no. And I try really hard to pay attention to the chat bar, because so last week we were talking about, or Monday, we were talking about being an enabler versus a doer of innovation. And it was actually awesome because I asked them, how can they enable in their organization? And they had a slew of ideas that were way better than anything I was saying, I thought. And it was just a great example of enabling, because we just did it in the moment. So Ashante says, first time joining in, love this, and how I can still innovate and influence up. Yeah, absolutely. I think we really underestimate our ability to influence up. And I think that's a huge opportunity for all of us to work on, not just influence down, but influence up. I like that, Ashante. That's a great way to say it. Yeah. All right, Jason, you don't move. Let me deal with this. Hold on. Oh, Sean, she said, thanks for saying my name correctly. You're welcome. With a name like Tamara, I'm very in tune to people's names, but I'm glad I got it right off the letters.
So I have to be honest, like every time I say your name tomorrow, I'm like, did I say it right? Did I say Tamara? Did I say Tamara? Did I say tomorrow? Like, I'm like, like, dude, don't screw it up.
Well, it's funny. Ashanti, you probably get this too. Like, I'll say to people, I'm Tamara, nice to meet you. And nice to meet you. And they'll say, nice to meet you, Tamara. And I'm like, I just said, huh. And I get it, right? Like, my name in the US is not common, right? In Israel, where I was born, it's very common. So people would say it right, but here it's just not common. So, and Temi, I hope I'm saying it, Temai. You have to tell me how to say your name. She says, great platform, love it. Good. Okay. Actually, Jason, if you don't mind, why don't we log off so we can let all these poor people go? Because I promised them 10 minutes and it's 20 minutes in. And I'm going to send you a Zoom link so you and I can just do a quick catch up if you have time for that.
Yep, sounds good. I'll log off here.
I'll do it over the Facebook Messenger.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Y'all have a fantastic day.